We are live once more. And let me get my Amazon one going here. It's a rainy Saturday afternoon. My wife and kids went out for a bit, so I figured let's open up this retro magazine that we got in. And we're going to do that in a minute. I'm going to leave some time for people to shuffle in, and then we will snap to it. So yeah, so hopefully everybody's having a good afternoon and good morning, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll start saying hello to some folks before we get things going here. Title, where's the title? I'm going to pull up my social, here it is. My social title here. And we've got nobody. Hang on. We got Romeric. There we go. Hello, Romeric. Dava is here. Fernie Lopez. Nice and dry in Arizona. That's usually the case in Arizona, I think, right? Yeah, it's raining, and we've got like snow on the ground, and it's like really raining. So we have all this melting snow and then the rain on top of it. So it's like really soggy. And a lot of times you get that rain where you could go out and walk the dog or something. This is like a soaking, like big droplet rainstorm that's been going all day. Dava says it is wet in Trinidad. And I would imagine that's usually the case there. You know, the opposite of Arizona, right? You get a lot of rain there. So I'm sure that's the case. Now, this is opened, by the way, and the reason why it's opened is because my wife opened it. So I don't know what edition I have, but I know the brand of the magazine, so it's going to be a surprise to you and not to me. But I didn't look at the magazine. I don't know which one I got. I saw it brief because she came in. She's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "No, don't open it. Don't open it." But she opened it, so it'll still be a partial surprise for me. So we'll wait and see what's in there. And as we're waiting for people to come into the chat, we say a few more people. To Juan Jordan, beautiful in 70 in Southern California, and it usually is pretty beautiful there around 70 this time of year, I think. Fernie says it's pretty normal for there. Hal is here from Denmark. Hello. Yeah. So excuse me. So a couple things. First, here, let me pull this up on screen real quick here. I'll show you what I'm doing here. This has kind of turned into something interesting. And I didn't think I'd have a shot at this, and I probably still don't have a shot. But let me pull it up on my screen here and play it for you. Give me 1 second. We're just going to pull up a web browsing session here. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in just a second here. So let's go pull this up real quick. And let's go over to, yeah, I'm going to play this video for you. Let me bring the audio in on this, and hopefully it's not going to be too loud. And I'll explain what this is after we watch the video together. So let me hit the video here.
These days, there is a lot to balance.
Hang on a second, we've got to skip this ad here real quick.
But Grammarly ensures...
There we go. Okay. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and I have been consumed by this Inspiration 4 mission ever since it was announced a couple of weeks ago. If you don't know what this is, they're launching 4 civilians into space on a SpaceX rocket, and it's happening later this year. I checked in with SpaceX just to confirm this was legit, and it is. And of course, they advertised this thing during the Super Bowl also. And they're going to be picking 2 of the crew members through 2 different contests. One is something where you can contribute to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital and get a number of entries depending on how much you contribute. And the other way you can win is to set up a shop. I'm going to fast forward to the actual pitch here. Let me go find that spot real quick here. Okay, here we go. Okay. Hi there, my name is Lon.TV, and growing up I had 2 dreams that I wanted to accomplish in life. The first was to have my own TV show, and the second was to go into space. Now, I largely achieved the first goal. I built up a YouTube channel from nothing to about 300,000 subscribers. It is now my full-time job and has been for the last 3.5 years or so. I'm making a good living doing something that I love, and that is reviewing consumer electronics. And I have plans to grow out an incubator and accelerator space to help other people in the commodity content space that I operate in launch their own efforts as well, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I also cover my passions, and one of those passions is space. And all of this stuff that I'm doing today for a career began when I got an email from NASA 10 years ago inviting me to a tweet up to watch the final launch of Space Shuttle Discovery. And witnessing that launch up close was a real life-changing event for me, and I decided that I really wanted to pursue independent content creation as a career. My hope was to cover the space program, which I did for the following year as the Space Shuttle program slowly wound down. And I was very disappointed to hear that so many people thought that the U.S. space program was ending with the space shuttles, and that was certainly not the case. So I went back down to Florida with my friend from ctnewsjunkie.com here in Connecticut, and we wrote a story about the future of the space program and how part of that future will involve commercial space flight operators like SpaceX. That story won an award that year for in-depth journalism. We are very gratified by that, but also by the fact that we were getting people interested in the future of space flight. And now that future is here, and the growth of my independent media operation has allowed me to continue covering these stories. I've been to a number of NASA and SpaceX launches, giving viewers the feeling of what it's like to actually be there, but nothing would compare to doing this story from orbit, and I would be honored to be the first journalist to go into space to share that experience with the world. And regardless of outcome here, the Shift4Shop platform has already saved me time and money by allowing me to move my online store over to their free platform. But I would very much love the opportunity to continue telling this great story about the future of spaceflight, and I greatly appreciate your consideration. So there you go. That's the pitch. We'll see what happens. You know, what's interesting is that on this space thing, and if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the pin thing there. There are less than 100 people right now applying for this. I thought there would be like 1 million people, and I'd be like one little blip. But it's actually, I think, you know, there's a shot here. You know, like there's right now again, I think less than 100, and you know, we'll see what happens. Let me see what it's up to now. And then the other thing they're looking for, I'm just looking on my computer screen here, is like the top trending videos. So the way this works is that you have to set up your online store with them, and then you've got to get a video on Twitter and then link all of it together and send it to them. So you know how many entries there are basically. And right now, somebody counted the other night, it was like 61 or 62. It's probably going to go up a little bit. The deadline is tomorrow, but I would guess it's probably going to be less than 100. So it's not a big field. So we'll see what happens. Now, this is not a random thing. It's judged. There's 4 judges. One of them is the guy that did that porch pirate robot thing that spritzes glitter and stuff on people. So he's one of them. Mark Rober, I think his name is. So it's pretty cool. So we'll see what happens. You know, here's the thing: is that I guess they make the decision in the next week. So this thing ends tomorrow. They decide like in the next 3 or 4 days. And then if you get picked, you're going down for training. So, you know, it could be a very different channel for a couple of weeks. You don't become an astronaut forever. You know what I mean? But you know, it's what it is. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Got some more questions we'll take. I'm just trying to like drag things out a bit to get some more people in the stream before we open up this retro game magazine. Jimmy Outen on Amazon loves the computer behind me. Yeah, I've got an Apple II GS back there. We're going to have a stream actually where we get that thing working again. And then I've got a Mac S right. I'm trying to point right there. The Mac SE30 right there is one that I bought on eBay a while back. That was a real hot ticket back in its day. I think it was like $4 or $5 grand. It was very expensive. So it's pretty cool. It's definitely old school, and it definitely works. Actually, the Apple II GS, we're going to do a whole stream about the Apple II GS. That machine, I really souped it up because that was like the first computer that I ever really worked on, because the one I had before it was an Apple IIc, and that one, you couldn't upgrade the IIc very easily without soldering things or whatever. But the 2GS, like the 2E and the 2 Plus and the 2 before it, had expansion slots on it, so you could upgrade it. But all of the components you would get to upgrade were very expensive back then. So I didn't do a lot of upgrading. I never had a hard drive for it. It just had 2 floppy drives. So I would say about 15 or 16 years ago, before all this Apple stuff got rare, I started buying up upgrades for it. So I brought it up to, I think it's got 8 megabytes of RAM, which back in the day would have cost you a fortune. And it's got, and when I do the stream, I'll show you, but I've got this memory card in there. It's about this long, and it's just filled with little DRAM chips. It's pretty cool. So what you used to do is you bought the card, and then you had to buy the chips and install all the chips in the sockets all along the way. And then I have an accelerator in there called the Transwarp GS. That speeds it up. And then what else do I have in there? I have an Ethernet card. I have another card that, so the Ethernet card is a new piece of hardware, relatively speaking. There's a lot of hobbyists that still make hardware for the Apples. So it's called the Unternet card. And you can't really get on the web with it, but you can do Telnet and you can run a little web server on it, some cool stuff. I haven't actually played with that in a while, so I may look at that as part of that stream. And then I have another card called the CFFA 3000. And that is a really neat device that turns these compact flash cards into a hard drive on the old Apple. Now it's funny though, when you look at one of these cards, is that this card is 1 gigabyte, this one's 4 gigabytes, as is this one here. And the Apple could only address 32 megabytes per partition in its native ProDOS format. So you'd have to have, you put in a bunch of little 32 megabyte disk images. The 2GS, however, in the later iterations of its system software, could read Mac HFS partitions. I'm getting real nerdy here. So you could have a 2 gigabyte partition on the Apple 2GS, but you couldn't boot from it. So you could boot into OS or GS OS 6 point whatever, and then you could access 2 gigs on an external drive. So that was kind of a neat thing. But I think 2 gigs was the maximum on it. So yeah, that thing is decked out. And I blew out the power supply when I was doing a video on it a while ago. And what's funny is, and this will be maybe be part of the stream, about 2 or 3 years ago, a friend of mine, Ken Gagne, who still publishes the last remaining Apple II magazine called Juice.gs, he connected me to somebody who didn't live far from me, who used to run a user group, and he was downsizing. He was a doctor. And he called me up, and he said, Ken's like, hey, can you take his stuff? So I got all this stuff from this old user group, including a brand new power supply for that 2GS. So we're going to put that power supply in. We're going to clip out the battery that can become a real issue for it, and it's going to be fun. All right, let me catch up on some stuff here because we got a super chat. I want to thank Fernie Lopez for the super chat. Yeah, if I don't get it, maybe I'll make enough money one day and I can go on my own. Maybe I'll bring up my own crew with me. I think I'll bring a crew of retro video gamers with me, and we'll just play Nintendo in orbit all week. That'd be kind of fun. So yeah, and first of all, thank you for the super chat. And every little bit helps, so thank you for that. I think right now the price tag is like $30 or $40 million per launch. And that sounds like a lot, but when you think about it, it's actually come down considerably. Maybe it's in the $50 million range, I'm not sure. I was looking on the contest webpage, and they value the prize at $2 million, I think is the value of it. And they also give you cash to pay the taxes, because when you win a prize that large, $2.5 million or whatever the value is, you got to pay taxes on it. So 20% of that, right? So it's pricey. So they cover your taxes too, which is very, very nice of them, because you don't want to get bankrupted by winning a prize to go to space. Jimmy, thank you for the follow on Amazon. I'll say hello to some more folks, and we'll get this magazine going here. It looks like we got a good crew in here. Lewis is here. Shane wants to know, how am I converting ISO files from... Okay, so you know what I'm doing for Plex is I'm using Make MKV. And if you go on my YouTube channel and do a search for... If you go to my Plex playlist, you'll see the video that I did on this topic in there. YouTube has demonetized it and then made it invisible to search for some reason. It doesn't violate any of their policies, but they just did it because the advertisers make them do it. So... it's one of those things. They have policies, and then they've got other policies that they don't tell you about, Civil says, hope to see you go into space. Yeah, it'd be kind of fun. A lot of people want to get me off the planet, I'm discovering. I'm not sure if I should be happy about that. Terry says, I'm not the most popular, but the most trusted. Yeah, I've never been, my goal has never been to be the most popular. I just want to earn a good living and produce good content and do it the right way. So, it's funny, many years ago, I met Marcus Brownlee at a Motorola phone event. And my business philosophy is that if I get invited to something, I go, especially if it's in New York, because it's good to get out of the house. These days, I never leave. So I got invited to it, and I was sitting right next to him. So I said to him, this was back when I was first getting started. It was probably 2015, maybe. And I asked him, I said, just curious, like how many views how many of the views that you get come from subscribers versus non-subscribers? And at the time, my ratio was 90 non-subscribers and 10% subscribers. Now it's about 80-20. And his was 90% subscriber, like 10% non-subscriber. It was flipped. So what's interesting about what I do is that, everyone watching here is a subscriber for the most part, so this is like preaching to the choir. But for the most part, my viewership are people who are not subscribed to me. They're looking for information about a product, and they just happen to find one of my videos. It's really funny. So I run into people. First of all, it's great because nobody knows who I am, which is awesome, so I can actually go out in public and not be recognized. If I go to like CES or something, I'll be a little bit more recognized there, but not much. Marcus Brownlee, he's pretty well known now. Like he doesn't have the anonymity that I have. And what's also nice about the ratio here is that I don't have. I think when most of your viewership comes from non-subscribers, people don't get sick of you either because you're always bringing new people in. So, and what's really neat about this whole thing, hey, there he is. So, hey, Ken Gagne, I don't know if you were just watching, but I just mentioned you in regards to my Apple IIgs back there. I plugged juice.gs because I needed a new power supply for that Apple IIgs, and that guy you connected me to a while ago to get rid of all the stuff in his basement, there was a 2GS power supply in there. So everyone say hello to Ken Gagne, then subscribe to his channel. Please do. David's Devices is here. By the way, this is a soft drink. It's my Pellegrino. It's my water that I consume. It's delicious. Well, it's water, but it's fizzy water. I stopped drinking soda many years ago, and I miss the fizzy. So I get this stuff, and it's fizzy, no calories. The mineral water is not bad for you. At least I don't think it is. So good stuff. And some more praise here. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be of helpfulness to people because that's what I aim to do. And Shane ordered Starlink this week. Yeah, so it looks like my brother's getting about 100 and change. He's not getting the full speed right now because of his lousy network. So the next thing we're going to do, I got to get in touch with my friend in town here. We're going to go and do a network makeover. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to go up there and unify him. So Unify makes these really cool outdoor access points. So we're going to do a bunch of those, and then we're going to get I think I'm probably going to hook him up with a Dream Machine, a UDM, because he doesn't need that and anything much faster than that at the moment. That one will handle like just shy of a gigabit internet connection, and Starlink is rumored to go up to 10 gigs at some point. At least that was his suggestion, but I don't think the Ethernet on that dish right now is faster than a gigabit, so we'll have to see. And Ken actually missed my mention of him, so your ears must have just been ringing. That must be what happened there. So, yeah, so any event, we're going to get this magazine going in a second here. And if you don't mind, I would love it for you to go to my Twitter page, Lon.TV/Twitter, or Twitter. Whatever, just go to Lon.TV/Twitter. I think I have that set up. And if you can retweet, does that work? Yeah, no, it doesn't. Hang on, let me add that because I don't have that set up yet. If you retweet my tweet that's in there, that would be really helpful because they're saying that they're going to be judging. So twitter.com/LONSEIDMAN. Yeah, so Lon.TV/Twitter. What they're saying is that they're going to be picking the finalists from the top trending videos. And like right now, if I do a search for the hashtag for this thing, I'm like number 7 or 8. So that's pretty good, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's a long shot, but it'd be kind of one of those things that you just have to do it. Got some more folks popping in here. We have, let me get this name up here. We have Anthony Larios, hello there, and Keith McDermott is here, hello, hello. So yeah, let's see what we're up to on the stream count here. We're up to 64. And this is opened already, but we haven't looked at the magazine yet. And the reason it's open is because my wife opened it when she didn't know what it was. So I haven't really seen what's in here yet. Let's make sure. Okay, I got to flip it around this way. Okay, so no address on there. We're good. Okay. Now the other problem that we have with this, so I haven't seen. I know what's in here, but I don't know what edition it is. And the other problem that's happened is that for whatever reason, their like shopping cart put the wrong address in for me. But I live in a small town, so they know me. So this keeps coming to the wrong address, and then the postman brings it to the house, where they catch it before it gets in there. And so the mailman comes to the door with this the other day, and I'm like, This is not an inappropriate magazine. He's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, I know it says video games on there, but you know. So it's the real deal. Okay, let me get going here. And there's the, thank you, Mark Dell, for spreading the love there. Yeah, retweet that. Retweet it. Because you know what? If we can keep myself up on the list there. So the entries end tomorrow. And then if selected, we'll have a little bit of a different stretch of content for a while. I guess they want to send it up by like October, November. Now I read a little bit more about the mission, is the one they're going to send up is the one that's currently docked to the space station. So that's the one that just sent the crew of 4 up. I think they're coming back soon. So that's going to come down. They're going to refurbish it, put hopefully a new heat shield on it, and then blast it back off again for this thing in the fall. So it's part of I think it'll be their first reused crew module. So you can look at that 2 different ways. The way I look at it is that if it worked once, it'll probably work again. So it's been battle tested. This is a good question from Shane Sullivan. I have not been able to get Dolby Vision working on my OLED TV. I need to go back and research this. There's been a few updates since then, so I need to check that out, and we'll see what it is. All right, everybody. Shall we open this thing up and see what's in here? I got about 80 on the chat. Maybe should we wait till we get a total of 100? I have 78 right now on YouTube and 16 on Amazon, although perhaps we've got enough. Maybe we'll just do it. And I'm just going to get going here. So let's pull it out. Now this is, and in case you don't know what this is about, we did a video on this a few weeks ago, and I found that this does better as a live stream than it does as a recorded video. So that is why we're doing a live stream. And I have the switch on because again, I don't know exactly what edition it is, but I know which magazine it is. Now what happened here is that the Video Game History Foundation is a nonprofit that has been preserving the history of this art form. You may argue that video games are not an art form. I would beg to differ, because it is an art form, and that is what it is. So they do a lot of research into things that involve the history of developing certain games, the code of those games. They do research into games that never existed. They had a thing a few weeks ago on Sega VR for the Sega Genesis that never was released, but they found code and got it working and ported it over to the Oculus and the HTC Vive. Like that kind of cool stuff, right? So David's Devices, thank you for the support on the space trip. It'll be awesome. So yeah, so that's what they do. So what they apparently have done is they've accumulated a huge archive of retro video game magazines for their research. And I'm guessing people just donated their collections or whatever. And they have way more than they need, and I'm guessing they have a lot of duplicates. So they are now doing a subscription plan where every month you can get one of these extra magazines sent to you, and it's classy. They got a nice, plastic envelope here with the sticker and the certificate of authenticity, and they're doing it, with using the museum language here, ascensioned, whatever that means. It means that you're removing something from your collection there, so it's pretty cool. Bigfoot Gorilla in the chat room says, what model are those PCs behind me? So you came in a little late, but we were talking about it a few minutes ago. We've got a Mac SE30 and an Apple 2GS. And I'll put that into the chat here, too, in case anybody else comes by. And the SE30 was a super expensive computer back in its day. The Apple 2GS wasn't a slouch on the cost side either. We're going to have a fun stream with that 2GS in the near future, because I'm going to get that going pretty soon. All right. Mark Dell says, can I go down there and call dibs? I guess the real question is, what seat is shotgun in that capsule, right? We used to always have a fight with my siblings as to who was going to sit in the front seat. Oh, and Ted Gagney says that the Video Game History Foundation has a live stream starting in 30 minutes. So maybe what we'll do is we'll finish this one, and then by the time I'm done, they will be going with theirs. It's their 4th birthday today. What a coincidence. That's pretty cool. All right. Mark Dell says, the code I write makes me a Picasso. It is abstract, hard to understand, and yeah, that's me too. You and me both. And it's funny, I've not been much of a coder, but back in my IT days, I was coding Fox Pro. And I taught myself how to code it. And so my early code was very different than my later code, and it was often hard to figure out the difference there. Bigfoot Gorilla says, miss those old monitors. Yeah, those were cool back in the day. Especially because you look at them now and they look so small and low resolution, but back then, especially the color Mac monitors looked beautiful for the time. All right, everybody, why don't we open this up, see what we get here. So what's that, ASMR? Is that what they call that? The crinkly? Do you guys like that? Is that going to qualify me as an ASMR person, or should I whisper? So here is the certificate of authenticity. This is their logo here. Okay, and then they put a nice piece of cardboard here to keep it nice and secure. The last one we got was a good one because it was right in line with my favorite era of video gaming, which was the transition from the 16-bit consoles to the 32-bit ones. It was like months before the PlayStation came out. It was just a perfect thing. And the actual quality of the content was good, but the physical condition of the magazine was equally good. And this one looks really well maintained as well. All right, so let's pull the plastic off. All right, now let me ask everybody. I'll wait because there's a bit of a YouTube delay here. What magazine do you think this is? Take a guess. It's going to be an a late 80s or early 90s magazine. So take a guess. I'll wait right here, and you can throw it in the chat. And the problem on the chat is that it takes like 30 seconds for YouTube to get the same question. So I'm going to just stand by here and see what we get. And the first one who gets it right, I will flip it over and show you that you're right. So have at it. What magazine do you think this is? I would do the Jeopardy song, but I would get a copyright strike even for humming it. So, all right, let me start taking the guesses here. Relentless Relento says, is it Game Fan? Negative. Game Pro? No, but that's what we got last time. I see some right answers in here. Yeah, not Game Pro, Scott Linux. But the answer is, and let's see who got it right here. I'll take a few more here. Let's see. Expert Gamer? Negative. It is not that. So the correct answer is what most of you threw out there, which is Nintendo Power. So Aaron Johnson, Andy Blanchfield, Mark Dell, Christopher Dale, and Chris Campbell. You all got it right. But now let's see what edition this is, because again, I didn't look at the magazine before my wife put it in front of me. Oh, you know what? There's an address here. Let's get this off of here to protect whoever this person is. Oh, it's ripping it. Okay. Hopefully that's enough. Okay. I mean, granted, they probably don't live there anymore. This was from, what was the date on this one? So this is a Nintendo 64 era Nintendo Power from December of what year? What year do you think this was? This is volume 103. So let's take a look and see. December, I'm guessing like 1996 is what I would say. It doesn't say the year. Isn't that crazy? Let's take a look. All right, so Nintendo Power, volume 103. This is December of 1997. And you know what's crazy about being in this information age is that, like, somebody took the time to actually document this. There's a wiki you'll find on Fandom that has like the entire lowdown as to what the contents of this magazine are already. Isn't that crazy? So let's take a look, see what's inside. So yes, this is a little bit later in the video game world for me, because at this point, I was in December of '97, I was in college. I was probably more a PlayStation gamer. My brother had the Nintendo 64 at home. I was a senior in college when this came out. And what's amazing about these magazines that they send you is the quality, like the physical quality. Everything is like exactly where it was. So use these handy hint cards to make sure you get the gift you want, right? Because this was gonna, you probably got this in, I bet you got this around mid-November. So they have these little cards you can chop out, tape it to the fridge, hide this in, shows you the era, right? Hide this in mom's makeup kit, stuff this in one of dad's shoes, stick this on the inside of the toilet seat. That's a real Sega thing to say right there. Tape it to the fridge, put this on the bathroom mirror, glue this on the car steering wheel. I would kill my kids if they glued anything to the steering wheel. And so you could get 12 issues. That was the brilliance of Nintendo, is that they made you pay to get marketed to. Like, nothing in here is like independently sourced journalism. I guess they did have some reviews, but I don't think they were ever giving you unfavorable reviews, were they? Let me zoom in a little bit closer here. So this was right when Diddy Kong Racing came out, and then Zelda 64. And they have all the letters from people. We should look up and see if any of these people are around somewhere, right? And you can see there's stuff coming in via the internet. How about that? Terry was in Japan in the military when this issue came out. Awesome. I had a friend who was stationed in Korea for a while. And my other friend, actually a friend of mine who graduated high school with me, actually two of my friends, they were deployed a lot. They were a well drilling unit in the National Guard, so they got deployed. My poor friend, he kept trying to finish college, and every time he got close, they'd send them away somewhere. So he did South America, Panama. He did Iraq, Afghanistan. I think he did Iraq twice. And they had a really specialized role. They dug water wells. Apparently, there's water you can find in the desert, because that's what they were digging. I Am on Tech was 10 years old. That must have been a fun time to be a kid. Actually, it's funny, around this time, now that I remember this, I let my brother hang out in my college apartment for a night. He came up and hung out with all of us. It was a lot of fun. We played video games. He was about 10 years old in '97. So, okay, so this is the power charts. 1997 ends with the man with the golden gun meeting the clan with the golden balloons. Oh, so these are the top games on each system. So the top game on Nintendo 64 was GoldenEye 007, Star Fox, and Diddy Kong Racing. And I guess, are these sales charts? I guess it must be. And then on the Super Nintendo, remember this is, people were still playing the Super Nintendo there. So Link to the Past was still the top seller. Super Mario RPG and Donkey Kong Country 3. Because remember, at this point, the Nintendo 64 was only about a year old. And for the first, probably the first 6 or 8 months of that, you couldn't really get one. So there was probably still a lot of activity on the old systems. And then this was the year that I bought my Game Boy Color. And I have that somewhere in the house. because I bought that like 97, 98. Maybe it was 98 that I bought the Game Boy Color. But the Game Boy obviously was still a hot ticket. And at that point, the Game Boy was like almost 10 years old. So they had the Game Boy Pocket at that point, I think. And then they had The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which you can play the remake now on the Switch, Donkey Kong Land 2 and Super Mario Land 2. And somebody made a color version of that. So you can download a hack and turn that into a color version of Mario on the Game Boy Color. I never got into Diddy Kong Racing. I'm sure a lot of you millennials did. Mario Kart was one my brother had. We played that a lot when I was home from school. This was a game that I did not have a lot of nostalgia for, just because I hadn't really played it before. But you see what I mean? When like you're paying for the marketing, so you're paying for a subscription to this magazine, and then you're getting hit with marketing, right? Like this is a Nintendo game, you know. And think about the value to this. And I guess, look, if you're a Nintendo fan, I'm a Nintendo fan. I have a Switch. I love the Switch. It was probably the only way you could get that much information out to the fan base, right? But think about it. Like, the fans are covering a bulk of the price to distribute the messaging. Isn't that brilliant? So you have this huge spread, right? Look at this. How many pages is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 pages. 16 pages. So can you imagine what that would have cost them in one of these gaming magazines? And so here it's free. I mean, you have to have the labor to design it. But I would bet you they probably had the labor costs covered largely by the subscriptions. So there you go. Yeah, the game counselors. And that was another thing they charged for, because Sega was free. Nintendo was free for a while, but then after a while they changed it to a 900 number. You had to call up the 900 number for tips. Evan Damas was 6 years old when that happened. Tawan Jordan was 16, had a blast in the 90s. Yeah, I loved the 90s. I never kind of left the 90s, I guess. But you had all this cool stuff. I happen to like being a kid of the 80s just because we were kind of in between, you know? So like we remember the before, all this stuff. So like when there was a computer in the classroom, that was the first time there was ever a computer in a classroom. What an amazing time that was. And we had like run of the school because nobody knew how to use the computers in school. So there you go. Mark Dell, sorry to Mark Dell is not a millennial, but he loves some Diddy Kong Racing. I should try it out. I don't have my Nintendo 64 handy, but I should try it out. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Scott Lennox I didn't realize Link's Awakening was that late. I think it was probably out for a while, and that it was still just selling really well. That's the one thing with Nintendo also. You know, take a look at their back catalog even on the Switch. You know, the Zelda Breath of the Wild, still selling for full price. Even the used value of those games is still very high. You know, they're almost like, I liken them to being like the Apple of video games, in that there's just a tremendous amount of earned value to their titles. And the games are still fun, you know, like they've got it dialed in. And everyone had written them off before the Switch came out. And then here's the first 100 shots of Zelda 64. And they eventually obviously called this something different than Zelda 64. But they've got some screenshots of what to expect. You know, it's funny, at the time, the Nintendo 64 looked good. It didn't have like the same amount of textures, I think, as the PlayStation, but it felt like it ran better. Like, it's funny, like there was nothing really that early on that was the real equivalent to Mario 64. Bigfoot Gorilla wants to know, what was my favorite game back then? You know what's funny is I would go back and forth between the PC and the consoles, right? So I'm just trying to think back to like where I was in 97. So I think around that time, the PC games were really stepping up because the 3DFX cards were available at that point, because I'm pretty sure I had one installed in my PC at that time. So I was doing a lot of PC gaming. Quake was supporting that card. I had the Wing Commander, the new Wing Commander game came out that year. That had support for the 3DFX card. And the PCs suddenly became light years ahead of the consoles, especially when it came to 3D acceleration. The Voodoo cards were amazing. 3DFX Voodoo cards. So I think that was a majority of what I was playing. We had a PlayStation in the dorm room, so we played a lot of NBA Jam, like a lot of the multiplayer, fun arcadey kind of things we would play together. But yeah, the Voodoo cards I think were really like, it was, right now like there's a subtle, I think there's a big difference between PCs and consoles, but unless you really know what you're looking for, it's hard to see some of those big differences. But back then, the PC was just light years ahead when those Voodoo cards came out, the 3DFX cards. They were just incredible. And the frame rates, it was just amazing. So that kind of got me back to PC gaming. And JE here says, a Voodoo card with Diamond 56K modem, and you were all set. Absolutely. Now, at that point, my college had just installed our campus-wide Ethernet network. We didn't have one up until my senior year. So we all had this, basically our direct connection to the T1 line. about a megabit or two for the whole campus. That was it. But it was good. It was like it was a revelation having internet that fast. It was like, whoa, because we were just running on dial-up. And on campus, we couldn't connect at 56K, so the best you could get was 28.8, because you were calling through their phone system. So this is some of the screenshots from the Zelda game. I don't think they called it Zelda 64 in the end, right? It was called the Ocarina of Time. Let's see what they called it. So apparently, if you go to the Video Games Chronicle, they found a beta of Zelda 64. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Ocarina of Time was what it ended up becoming. It's a good game. I think like the top two games on the 64 were probably this and Mario 64, right? Here's Chameleon Twist. I don't think I remember that one. Anybody play Chameleon Twist? Got a nice big spread in here. And then some, and this is kind of funny, right, to see Mortal Kombat in here after all the drama related to Mortal Kombat and Nintendo back in the 90s. Mark Dell said, yeah, this is actually very true as well. It was a great time for colored lighting in games, even if there was no need for it. Exactly. It was just like, look at that lighting. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Our Relentless Relento wants to know any retro hardware reviews in the future. I should probably do something with that. I haven't done, did I do one recently? I think I did something recently with the Newton, but I should probably do some more with that. Maybe I'll try to find some Voodoo cards and get that going. Flood of Sins is here. And this was actually a big thing that Mark Dell brings up here. Like Nintendo didn't like to talk to the independent games journalists out there because they didn't need to. They had this huge subscriber base. They always liked to control the narrative. And it's funny, I interviewed probably about, gosh, this goes back 6 or 7 years now. I interviewed the former CEO of Sega, Tom Kalinske. And it was funny because as I was reading the book Console Wars by Blake Harris, it was interesting to see Nintendo's strategy back then. It's the same now. Like they have stuck to a very disciplined approach to selling their product, and it has worked time after time for them. Even with the Switch here on the desk, like this is not, comparatively, it's 2 generations behind the current crop of game consoles. Yet the games are still a lot of fun. And if you look back, every one of their consoles has kind of been behind the 8 ball. But it doesn't matter because the games are good, right? So they know how to market this stuff. And even now, when all the other game people are doing these big things at E3 and renting out auditoriums and stadiums, Nintendo's like, yeah, we'll go to E3, we'll do the live stream, we'll have their treehouse thing that they do. But they stream for like 5 or 6 hours at E3 a day. I mean, can you imagine how awful that's got to be for the people that have to do those streams? But they don't do a lot of big announcements like that. They do their directs because they don't need to, they like to control the narrative. And it's worked for them. So this is Mortal Kombat Mythologies, and I'm guessing this was on, it's on Nintendo 64. And I wonder too if the fact that the rating system came into place gave them more cover, right? So they got the M rating right front and center here. Let's see if Zelda has, yeah, see there's no rating on Zelda, right? What about the Diddy Kong Racing? Yeah, no rating there either, see? But they got it right here. Like, hey, just so you know, Mom and Dad. But it doesn't look like they're showing any fatalities. So they're being very careful about what they, because remember, the kids are getting this, right? It's not just older kids. When some kind of fold out, oh, look at this. It's like a fold out. Oh, here you go. Here's some retro wrestling stuff. Look at this. It's WCW versus NWO World Tour. Hollywood Hulk coming soon to your N64 from THQ, everybody. Get your pre-orders in. Isn't that cool? That is neat. And then, oh, look at this one. We got Wayne Gretzky's 98 3D hockey. I think I rented this game way back when. I don't know if this one was very good at all. Now, was this was 97. Were they gone at this point? I'm looking for my Hartford Whalers. Yeah, they're gone. They have Carolina in the Northeast. Because so this was the year. So I'm from Connecticut. So the Hartford Whalers were our hockey team. And around this time, the team moved down to Carolina. I think North Carolina? I think they were in North Carolina. The Hurricanes. So that used to be the Whalers. And you know what they did the other day? They had like retro night. And everybody in Connecticut was ripped about this. They had retro night where they all dressed up in Hartford Whalers uniforms. Yeah, that's sacrilege. There's a lot of, and here's the problem, is that they left because like nobody was going to the games anymore. I remember my senior year in high school, they were giving tickets away just to get people to go to the games in the hopes that maybe they have a good time and they may want to bring people with them. And one of the problems I think we have in Connecticut is that if you look at Boston or Chicago, people support their teams no matter what. And when the Whalers suddenly weren't doing as well, like people stopped going to the games. So when they stopped going to the games, like there's a whole thing that happens when people stop showing up. And so like they couldn't make the business case for staying in Connecticut. And that was really unfortunate, but so by the way, Joshua Cardona, thank you very much for the super chat. Let me put you up on screen here real quick. But we have an AHL team called the Hartford Wolfpack. And for a while, they were trying to bring the Whalers back. They had created this team called the Whale, which was also an AHL team in the hopes that could become maybe an NHL franchise. Never happened. So they went back to the Wolfpack. And I think the Wolfpack is a farm team of the Rangers, the New York Rangers. But this was 20 years ago now. It was like a year after I graduated college. A friend of mine who was still in town, he's now in like New York City area now, but he called me up one afternoon. He's like, hey, you want to go to a hockey game? I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I went up to Hartford to see the Hartford Wolfpack, and they had their best season ever. This is like the season of 1999. And in the AHL, it's called the Calder Cup. That's the one you want to go for. And this was some of the best hockey I'd ever seen in my life. So the first couple of games we went to was regular season. They would get maybe 2,000 or 3,000 fans, and I think the arena could hold like 15 or maybe 20 or 15 or 20,000 could fill the arena up, if not more. And so the games were never very well attended, but for AHL hockey, as a farm team, it made the business case. And then as the season went on, it got better and better. And suddenly they kept winning every game. And the next thing you know, they're in the playoffs. And we just started going to every home game we started going to. Because they're cheap. You could go to the game, I think it was like 10 or 15 bucks to get seats in like row in the first section. Like you were pretty much right next to the glass. And so we went to, I can't even tell you how many games we went to. But it was just getting better and better until they get themselves into the playoffs. And suddenly, the Hartford Civic Center, because we're winning, filled. Capacity. Like it was raucous, awesome AHL hockey. And what's great about AHL hockey is that it's not perfect hockey. And they had this one playoff game with the Providence Bruins, and that was like the big rivalry at the time. And they had this guy on the Bruins. He must have been like 12 feet tall. This guy was like 7 foot something, and he was kind of like a thuggish kind of guy. And so he gets really ticked off at one point, and I kid you not, he picks the puck up off the ice in the middle of play and just throws it over the side of the glass. And the fans are like, what? They start throwing their water bottles. I mean, it was total chaos. I mean, you had to see it. It was just amazing. So this guy gets booted out of the game, and now every time he comes back out, the fans, even like the subsequent games, because now everybody's going, just starts booing this guy and like just raucous hockey. So they get down to this is a playoff game, and it's like best of whatever, 7 games. And they get into it, and this game goes to overtime. But before it does, we're down like 3 or 4 goals, right? It was like not looking good for Hartford. And people that were at the game, they start leaving in the middle of the second period. Really? Like, stay to the end. So guess what? I stayed to the end. It went into overtime. And it was like, I think it went like 3 or 4 periods into overtime because they couldn't get the score broken. And then boom, goal. Raucous, whatever. They won the Calder Cup that year. It was awesome. I mean, it was best hockey ever. Best hockey ever. So, but yeah, hockey games are legit crazy, as Scott Lennox here says. And actually, we had another team in Connecticut called the New Haven Nighthawks. They're not there anymore because they tore down the stadium they played in. But that was like I don't think they were AHL. I think they were like another minor league hockey league. And let me tell you, that was the rowdiest hockey I'd ever been to. I was a little kid, and there was one section of season ticket holders that were just the rowdiest fans. They weren't like violent or anything. It was just rowdy fans, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to go to a hockey game, because I'm not a sports fan, I don't really follow sports, but I love going to hockey games. For whatever reason, I think hockey is just you know what it is? Back when I was in school, I was not an athlete in school either. But the one thing I was actually somewhat competent at was floor hockey when we played in gym class, and I think that might have been why I like hockey. That could be it. I don't know. I can walk okay. That's about all I can do. All right, what do we got here? This is the classified information. Oh, somebody's asking a question here. Hang on a second. Somebody's asking about the interview. Yeah, Mark tells us this is about the only thing I'll ever talk about with sports. I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, there was a lot of movement. Winnipeg to Phoenix, Whalers. Yeah, all I knew is the Whalers moved, and I was really bummed out about that. And then what's also funny about the Whalers is that one of my roommates across the hall, you may have seen him somewhere because he was the first African-American ringmaster of the Barnum and Bailey Circus, Jonathan Iverson. And he would do the national anthem when he was in college as a vocal student for the Whalers. It was a lot of fun. So we watched him do his thing once. It was cool. M. Dennis Akhtar wants to know, when is the NASA interview? We're going to have that on Monday. And in case you were not aware, we interviewed the guy. This is awesome. This is this is one of those things where if you have a YouTube channel, it never hurts to ask. So I ask all the time. Most of the time I don't hear back or I get a no. But I send a note to somebody at JPL saying, hey, my viewers are really interested in how we get data back from Mars. Is there anybody we could talk to? And he's like, yeah, I can have you talk to the guy who does it. So we're going to have the guy that manages the Mars Relay Network. So his responsibility is getting communications from the surface of Mars up to satellites that orbit Mars and then back to Earth. And he does it right now because of the COVID thing. He does it from his home office. So he's working from home like we all are, except he's controlling things on Mars, on and off Mars. Isn't that crazy? So that's going to be Monday night. So be on the lookout for that. And Meh has exactly how I feel about sports. I love going to sports in person, but I just can't get into it on TV. And I think what it is that for me, going to a sporting event with friends, it's an outing. You get to go out and do something. Like when we went to the hockey games, we had a procedure. So my friend and I would meet for dinner. We'd get to eat. One time I would cover, the next time he would cover. Let's have a nice dinner, go to the game. And then there was a little place we hung out after the game, and that was our routine. It was a lot of fun. That was back before marriage and children. Now I'm lucky to go anywhere. That's part of why I want to do this space trip, is get me out of the house for a couple days. So this is, what is this? This is a bunch of classified information section. Looks like a bunch of different games. Oh, these are codes, cheat codes, it looks like. Yeah, some cheat codes for different games. Clay Fighter, GoldenEye. Here's some GoldenEye cheat codes. Mr. Doe. Shadows of the Empire. That was a fun game. Yeah, when my brother got the Nintendo 64, we got Shadows of the Empire and Mario 64 for him. Those were really good. Yeah, I am on tech, right. No, it's all fun and games until the fans riot. You don't want riots. You want fun, raucous fans, but not anything beyond that, exactly. Thankfully, I never witnessed any of that. And Matt is looking forward to the NASA interview. That was a fun one. Yeah, I figured I would do that for the wrap-up. Because I don't want to get, I want to keep doing my core content. So, and then it helps too because some weeks I'm like, what am I going to do on the wrap-up this week? So it's nice to have something like ready to go. So all I have to do on Monday, I got to just edit up a little bit of the interview just to get all the stuff fleshed out. Do my intro and outro, and it's ready to go. So it kind of nice to have Monday start off with a little less stress to figure out what I'm going to talk about. Bomberman 64. That was another classic, wasn't it? Looking for a game that delivers a dynamite one-player adventure. How about a game that brings you explosive multiplayer battles? Yeah, bring it on. I was hoping that this would be an older Nintendo Power so we could check out some games on the Switch here, but it looks like most of these are Nintendo 64 games, which unfortunately are not yet on the Switch. Mario 64 is on that limited edition title that I picked up. And here's the Game Counselor's Corner. Some tips from the Game Counselors. That's pretty fun. Duke Nukem 64. How about that? I forgot they had that game for Donkey Kong Land 3 on the Game Boy. Think about how hard it was to get screenshots that were decent enough to print, right? You had to like up-res those to like 300 DPI to print them. There's not a lot of resolution to work with on the Game Boy there, even from like a still photo. Here's a Lamborghini game. Look how primitive these graphics look. If I can get this closer to you. Isn't that funny? It's just like flat shaded polygons there. Pretty funny. And they have a whole bunch of different cars. They got the Countach, it looks like. Is that the Countach? Yeah, I think there's a Countach in there. You have 8 different cars to choose from. They may vary greatly in design and color. All of them perform about the same. Hoovy at Hoovy's Garage just got a Countach. That is my favorite automotive channel. If you haven't checked out Hoovy's Garage, check it out. Wheel of Fortune. I don't think there has been a video game system made that did not get a Wheel of Fortune game, at least one that we've all played, right? Isn't that crazy? Like it's been, I remember playing Wheel of Fortune on my Apple II. So here's the Nintendo, is this the Nintendo 64 version? Yeah. And get this, it's designed for the Rumble Pack. So you can feel the wheel as it turns. That's a new feature. Civil here has a very good point about, yeah, I would agree. It's rough on modern displays for sure. And a lot of them were designed to take advantage of the limitations of CRT televisions too, right? So there's definitely some of that. Civil says Bomberman 64 had the best story mode ever. Paulo, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, we're just kind of chilling out today, nothing crazy. I'm actually ahead on content for once in my life, so it's been fun to just do a leisurely live stream. We got Vanna White. Vanna's been doing this. Actually, both of them have been doing it for a long time. I wonder if they were doing it as long as Alex Trebek has done Jeopardy. I don't know where you are, but Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy have been back to back since I was my daughter's age at 7 and 7:30 here in Connecticut. Here we go. WCW versus NWO World Tour. They ask, the Bash at the Beach. You can win the game or get an official tour jacket. Third prize, Nintendo Power t-shirts. I should send one of these in. I'm pretty sure this will probably still get to Nintendo. They haven't moved their headquarters. Here's Donkey Kong Land 3, The Lost World on Game Boy. Look how awful these screenshots are. This is like the challenge of, again, of the Game Boy, right? Look at this. You can't, this is mush. You get some idea as to what you're looking at, but not much. So Aaron Johnson said, I think I have Wheel of Fortune on my Nintendo Switch. I think I got it in from one of the Amazon Vine things that I get. But they are fun. Actually, there's the 3DO had two very good game show games. One was called Twisted, and the other one was called Zadnos the People's Party. Both of them were really fun party games. And they all had live video, so they were a little more. It was fun. It was a very good use of live video. If you haven't seen the 3DO games called Twisted and Zadnos, check it. Do some YouTube searches and check it out. And you got some of the. This was the one thing I think Nintendo Power did really well throughout their entire run, which was they bear with me here for 1 second, folks. They did these really decent maps, and they had to like string them together from a lot of different still photos. Pretty good stuff. So Handquake here says, you want us to send you to space? If it was a laptop, you would tell us not to buy a first-gen laptop, but you're going to fire me into space on the first gen. Here's what I would say about this, is that the Crew Dragon, I will grant you that the Crew Dragon is a first-generation spacecraft for manned flight. However, the design of Crew Dragon is actually a 2.0 because it is an evolution from the Cargo Dragon that initially was what they were using for cargo missions to the space station. So a lot of the design of Cargo Dragon is what Crew Dragon became. So I would say that Crew Dragon, even though it's a 1.0 for Crew, is actually a 2.0 for a majority of the spacecraft, because all of the thrusters, a lot of the systems on it. And now the Cargo Dragon is the same platform as the Crew Dragon. So they've revved it to Rev 2 on Cargo, which is basically the Crew 1.0. So I would say there would be spaceships that I would not set foot in at the moment, at least not yet. Like the Boeing CST 1000 or whatever it is, like that's their crewed craft. And that is the reason why they're struggling, is they're building that from scratch. Like there wasn't a cargo version of it. It is just designed as crew. So I would say this is like either the 1.5 or the 2.0. But I'll ask about that before I get on it, if I'm so lucky to be chosen. No worries, Mark Dell. I took care of it for you. You got a Sega Saturn in the mail. Ooh, we're going to do something with the Saturn soon, because I bought a second one of those adapters from the folks in Europe. Yeah, there's more maps and stuff. So we're gonna do some Saturn gaming, because I have that controller that I want to play around with too. All right, so what else we got here? Well, these are like people posting their best times. So this is the arena. So they have challenges. Oh, they have challenges each month. So challenge 1 of Harvest Moon. How much gold can you earn in 2.5 years? Can you earn $1 million on the farm? I wonder how many people gamed this with their Game Genies and stuff, right? Was there a Game Genie on the Nintendo 64? Because you could easily just adjust the RAM value for these things and cheat. And I guess they would publish your score. And then what would you do? I guess you would have to send in a picture. And then this is the Now Playing, your guide to the latest releases, December of '97. So here's Diddy Kong again. Chameleon Twist, Automobile, so all the games we just looked at are back here in the back. All of them. How convenient. In case you missed it, here's the Too Long Didn't Read of each of those. And they do actually, oh, actually, these are some reviews actually. So they do have some reviewers on the games. But I don't think they speak ill of any of them. They're all pretty... One guy didn't like it. He put in the 6s. I imagine this was really difficult for Nintendo because you don't want to give a poor review for a game that you're charging. Because these publishers are essentially customers of Nintendo also, right? They're paying a licensing fee. But there's some, there's some editorial, there's some reviews here. So Henry says lots of variety, but the overall pace of the game is slow. So that's a little critical. Let's see. I'm most interested in this driving game because I would imagine this one's probably not great. Yeah, they're saying all pretty much good things about it. Oh wait, so Scott P says the handling is easier than in Top Gear Rally, and the cars are pretty cool. Sonia says it felt unfinished. I could have used more tracks and more challenge. Sally wants to know, what magazine are we looking at? This turned out to be a Nintendo Power from December of 1997. So this was kind of like when the Nintendo 64 was finally hitting its stride because people could get them. So it's interesting. The Wheel of Fortune game has 10 minutes worth of digitized audio. Sony says the puzzles aren't supposed to repeat themselves, but they do if you turn off the game. So it probably didn't keep track of any status that you had there. Packwatch. So let's see what we've got here. So Forsaken, I think, came out on the Nintendo 64. These are the games that are coming up in the future. Nagano Olympics 98. Let's see if that ever came out. It did, I think. It came out on the PlayStation. Yes, I think it did. Turok for Game Boy. They got a lot of life out of that Game Boy, didn't they? I mean, they really did. Even the color was still kind of the same thing, right? Yeah, it looks like they got it for that. Snowboard Kids. WWF Raw is War. It looks like they've got a exclusive focus on Boss Game Studios. A little focus on a development team. So these are some of the games that they made. These are just like insider updates. Wario Land 2, NHL Hockey 98, N64 update. Yeah, we'll leak what we want to leak to you. Nothing in this thing is going to be sourced from a place that doesn't want you to know about it. And then, of course, you got Yoshi's story here in the back. Was there a Yoshi for Nintendo 64? I'm guessing it must have been. Yoshi's story, I guess it did come out. So it shows what I know. And there you go. So that is the December of 1997 from Nintendo Power. Sally says, my friends were N64 and I was a Sega fan. Yeah, I was a bit of everything. I liked a good game no matter what platform it was on. And now we have so many games that we can play with, like where do you even start, right? It's just like incredible how many games there are out there. So Mess says there was a Game Shark action replay for the Nintendo 64. So I bet you people probably cheated that arena thing there, didn't they? Ken Drigger said, I thought this was from the 80s. No, yeah, we got a 90s one this time. So what I did on there, so they had two options when you subscribed. One was to get 80s and 90s magazines, or the other one was like anything that would include the 2000s. And I wasn't much into the console gaming world in the 2000s so much. I had a Dreamcast, so that I was into that one, but that was pretty much it. I take that back. I did get I had it all. What am I saying? I had a Xbox, a Dreamcast, a GameCube. I had them all. But I think I spent more time on the PC, just because it was more powerful. BB Garnett says that San Francisco Rush 20. Yeah, that was a good one. I think people really liked that one. Joe Herzog read more Nintendo Power than he played. I think these days people watch more video games than they play, right? My daughter and I watch a lot of Animal Crossing videos, more than I think we play it. What's funny is that Animal Crossing has been kind of how, so like this morning my daughter and two friends were playing hide and seek in Animal Crossing. It was kind of fun. It was raining, so we couldn't do anything outside today. So, and Mess says, yeah, all we need is a Mister now. That's right. Got the Mister. You've got like most of the 80s and 90s in one very accurate package there. Yeah, there is somebody working on, there's a couple of new Mister cores coming out. So somebody's been working on the PS1, and somebody else has been doing some work on getting the links working. In fact, there's a beta core out now that you can play the games. There's no sound yet, but they've got the links going. We should probably do a follow-up to see what Mister is up to these days, because there's a lot going on with it. Good stuff. So everybody, tonight's video, in case you're wondering, tonight we're going to have, this actually turned out really, really well. I was looking, every month I do one of those sponsored videos for Plex, and I was trying to figure out what are we going to talk about this month, because I've talked about so much stuff. And I stumbled upon a script that allows you to bring Locast, which is that streaming service for broadcast TV. It's a nonprofit. You can bring your Locast streaming video into Plex and use it like you would a regular antenna. So you can do DVR recordings, you can watch live. It works great. So partially, I would say mostly great, So that is, that's going to be tonight's video. So that'll post in about 3 hours or so. And it looks like I want to thank you all for retweeting my send me to space thing. Let's see how I'm doing on the search rankings. I haven't checked in a little while. And the search rankings don't matter. I think it just gets the attention of the judges to get, so that you can kind of get in front of them. That's kind of the thing. So let's see. There's 1, 2. Yeah, I'm still pretty much at the top of the list there. So I'm like midway down, which is good. Just look on the Twitter search. So there's a lot of interesting people applying. So I'll be happy for whoever gets to go. And I have a feeling, it's kind of, it's a big deal if you get picked, obviously. But I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more opportunities like this, because if you think about it, I don't think it's ever been this, and I'm going to use the word affordable, and you have to really put it into context here, but I don't think it's ever been this affordable to go into space than it is now, because you have a reusable spacecraft. There's only one part that's not reusable, which is the second stage. There's no fairing on this one because the capsule is the fairing. So it's pretty much reusable except for the second stage. So you're looking at a couple $1 million for that, refurbishment and fueling, but it's still a lot cheaper than building a rocket that you're going to use once and then ditch in the ocean. Got another super chat here from Ken Driggers. Thank you very much, Ken. Put you up on screen here. Much appreciated. Yeah, these are always fun to just kind of go through and open up one of these magazines, and he enjoys the Plex content is what he was thanking me for. Yeah, it's fun to do the Plex stuff. That's a really good sponsorship for my channel because it's something I use. It's something I like, and viewers like it too. So it's really good. Tawan says, I'm one of those subscribers that watches almost every video. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. Most people don't. And part of the problem is that I don't cover one thing. I cover a lot of things. And so, like if I have a subset of the audience that likes production gear, right? And that's not a big audience because, a lot of people make videos now, but not that many, right? So the production gear stuff, we got a bird dog camera we're going to review later this week. So the production stuff is interesting to some people. The networking stuff is interesting to some people. And then you've got the Plex and the TV streaming stuff. So like I've been, the channel is kind of an accumulation of my interests. And that's what I tend to review. So I have a lot of different things that I look at, and it creates a kind of a scattershot audience. But YouTube's been getting really good about getting particular topics in front of the people that tend to react to them quite well. It's kind of scary how good they are at that. So I know when I do something with the Unify hardware, like the networking video that we did, I can almost predict now how it will do because YouTube puts it in front of the right people. It's really interesting. Scott Linux, thank you for your super sticker. I will definitely try to keep it up. Maybe I'll start lifting some weights there. You know, what's funny is my vMix Social does not show me the stickers. It just shows me the chats. But I saw you pop up on my YouTube window there, so thank you for that. All right. Relentless Relento has learned a lot from my production videos. And you know what's funny? I learned a lot from watching other people's production videos. You know, I kind of pay it forward. Relentless does a lot of work with Premiere and After Effects. See, that's one area that I haven't gotten into. I don't know how to do color correction or color grading. I don't do a lot of graphics. I was very proud of myself for my opening intro thing that I do. But that's often hard to do. Mark Dell says he sees different people on every chat. Yeah, I see a bunch of people that are regulars, but different people pop in. And I think it happens to be, you know, what time of day that I'm doing it, the day of the week, the topic. And you know, what's neat is, or maybe not so neat, is that YouTube is really weird about recommending live streams. So I found that if you happen to be watching one of my videos and I'm live at the time, it usually will then put it up in front of people. It's really weird how that works. Oh, we got a bunch of chats on Amazon here. Sally wants to know, what is the Mister? If you go to Lon.TV/Mister, you will learn more than you will ever want to know. It is an FPGA-based computer that runs pretty much now, I think, just about most of the 80s and 90s computers. Most of the 80s computers for sure. It runs most of the game consoles from the 80s and 90s, and it does it in a very cycle-accurate way because it uses a FPGA chip that is massively parallel and can more accurately replicate all the different components that were in these game consoles and computers. It's really cool. Like you plug this thing in and it just feels right. Jeremy paid for Plex Pass, a lifetime subscription, back in 2017, 2018, and hasn't logged in for a few years now. Huh. You know, Jeremy, if you want to email me at lon@lon.tv, I can try to help. You know, it would really help if you had like an email confirmation that you bought a lifetime subscription. That might help them get you connected there, because they sell it as an annual, a monthly, or a lifetime. I think is the breakdown. And there might be an every 6-month one too. So yeah, it'll be worth looking at. Yeah, I got a lot of people to thank this week in the wrap up, which is good. It's always good to have people to thank. And the best part is I've already shot like 3/4 of the wrap up already this week, so I'll have plenty of energy to thank everyone. So thank you all for your super chats. All right. Random question. Will I be updating certain 101 series videos? I did update the Chromebook one. I might take a look at the Plex one. I looked at the Plex one a while back, and it's not I'm not crazy about how it came out. I was getting over a cold or a flu or something when I made it, but I might redo that one. What I like to look for is the information still relevant, and whether or not people are still watching it. And if the answer to the question is yes for both answers, then I typically don't update them just because it might eat away at a successful video. What I try to do is I really try to maximize. I really like to maximize the amount of value that I get out of a video that I make, because it takes time. My cost for this business is time. So, you know, if I'm making a video that's relevant for, you know, a month or two, you know, no problem. But if I could put the same amount of time and make a video that's relevant for a couple of years, that's certainly worth doing, right? So I look and see like how's the current one doing, and is it still relevant? And if the answer to that question is yes for both, then, you know, but I might look at the Plex one and do a new version of it. And what's nice is that I am such a digital pack rat that I still have the presentation that I made saved, so it wouldn't be hard to redo it. So that one might be one I look at in the near future. Maybe I'll do that one next month for my sponsored Plex video, because there's been a lot of new features added that were probably not in Plex when I first did it. So yeah, there you go. All right, everybody, I'm going to go chill out for a little bit because I have pretty much all of the work that I wanted to get done for this week already done. So I'm going to take the rest of today off. I'll spend a little bit of time tomorrow getting the wrap-up put together and all my Sunday paperwork done. And we'll find out next week if they're going to send me to space. Pretty cool. And you know, I wouldn't have thought I had a shot at it if not for the fact that not that many people are applying. So I got a better shot than I thought I'd have. I don't know, you know, no one's contacted me or anything, so you know, I don't know if I'm being considered. But the fact that there's like less than 100, I think was a lot less than I thought there would be. Partly because they advertised during the Super Bowl, so you would think there'd be a lot of people responding to that. But I guess you know, it's hard. You have to set up an online shop. You have to have a business. There's a lot of things that you would have to do that. So we'll see. We'll see. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. No big deal. Let's have a regular, normal year. And if it does happen, it could be a very different year. And it would get me out of the house. I think that's the best part. Think about this. You get out of the house, get trained to be an astronaut, then you go to space for a week or two, or for a bit less than a week. I think it's like 3 or 4 days. And then, you know, you come back, go back to normal. So that'll be the plan. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I have, Mark Dell was saying, try that new Bowser's Fury. I do have that. I should play around with that. So, and thank you for watching, everybody. Yeah, Lon in Space. Click on there. And good that you were able to attend live I Am on Tech. Yeah, I pop on randomly. I don't typically plan these out. I did email a bunch of, you know, I sent out on my email blast. If you want to sign up for my email, you can go to Lon.TV/email. I think that's still the right one, right? Is that still my list? Yes. So you go to Lon.TV/email, you can subscribe to my email newsletter. And I've been sending out more of these lately. And I think what I might do, I'm trying to figure out like how to best notify people about these live streams. Because I found, I guess if I schedule them on YouTube, then you could set a reminder. But a lot of these are not like events. They're just me working. So I don't like to schedule something unless it's like really different and a real special. So like I did a little bit more promotion of the Mars landing one that we did because I did some prep work for that. I did a little pre-show, like here's what's going to happen. I got a whole bunch of video clips put together. So that was a lot of fun. Actually, I thought that one went really well. The viewership was really good. Even on the recorded version, it was good. And my intent was to do it as something that would work well as a recorded video, and it seemed to do okay. So that was really gratifying because I don't typically do well. My live streams do not do well as watch laters. So that's something to think about. Mark Dell always does the scheduled reminder thing. Oh, cool. Yeah, so that is true because you can get like lost in the YouTube ecosystem there. Huh. Space bathrooms. Yeah, nobody's seen the SpaceX toilet. There is one on that thing, but it hasn't been talked about yet. And I think it is actually, so you know, like if you look up the pictures of the astronauts seated on the SpaceX Dragon, if you look above them, that's where the toilet is. So you have to actually, and you're in space, you're not technically upside down, but you have to flip upside down and then pull yourself onto it. That's where it is. And that's the one thing that will take some getting used to, which is that there's not a lot of privacy for using the potty on, but there is a potty because that was not the case on some of the earlier space capsules. They used they would go in a bag and toss it out or throw it out. But the shuttle had a toilet, and there's a really funny video on YouTube because they have a whole training regimen on how to use the toilet, and it involves a camera because you had to get yourself positioned correctly. So it's and the worst part is, you know, for the men it's a little bit easier for number one, but number one on the women, they have different connectors. So let's put it that way, depending on everyone's individual physiology. So it's there's actually a lot involved with the toilet, and the toilet on the space station is the same one I think that was on the shuttle. But yeah, and I don't know if the SpaceX toilet is different. So that would be one thing if I was selected I would learn about. But there's a really funny biography. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm hoping it's still available. Yeah, so look for there's a biography on Amazon. If you click my Amazon link and go in, you can just do a search for it. It's actually, yeah, it's on Kindle and okay, it's still published. The book is called Riding Rockets, The Outrageous Tales of a Space Shuttle Astronaut by Mike Mullane. And if you ever really want to know what it's really like to travel in space, I thought this was one of the best biographies of an astronaut ever. Because he was on, he's got a lot of funny stories. One of them involves I think some of the training they do on the bathroom may have come as a result of one of his experiences in space. Okay, because things tend to float around. Leave it there. But he was on a military mission. So remember, the space shuttle had civilian NASA missions, and then they had military missions, which were top secret. And he was on a mission on Atlantis where they had a foam strike similar to what happened with Columbia, and they were pretty sure they were not going to come back, and they knew it on orbit how bad it was, and there was nothing they could do about it. And so, like, he talked about that in his book also. And so that was years before the Columbia. So, like, they but great book, though. You got to read it. Yeah, roof toilet. Yeah, so it's, I don't know how it's going to work in there. And believe it or not, as small as these capsules are, and I have a video on my YouTube channel of Space Shuttle Discovery. I took a tour of Discovery before they decommissioned it. It was an awesome opportunity. And you go in, you're like, my gosh, it's so small. But the guy that was giving us the tour, he's like, it's small in here, but he goes, don't forget, when you're in space, there's no floor. Everything can be a floor and a ceiling. So if you had the mid-deck, which was where a bulk of the crew would be, so you had the mid-deck and then the flight deck. There was another thing below the mid-deck which you couldn't access as a crew member. So the flight deck was about like the size of a minivan. You couldn't really stand up in there. The mid-deck you could stand up. It had a pretty tall ceiling, but it was a cube. It was almost like a cube, based on how it was configured. And it wasn't very big. I would say if you've ever, I would liken it to a small apartment bedroom. It was not very big, and it would actually be a much smaller space when it was packed for flight because they'd have lockers with experiments and other things on there. But what the guy said is, like, it looks small, but remember, you got to think three-dimensionally. On the ground, there's only so much room you'd have for people to fit in because you're on the floor. But in space, you have the whole surface to work with. So you have the floor, the floor, the ceiling, and then the four walls. So you could really fit a lot more people into the same space. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, I could put a link to the book here in, let me log into my, I'm not logged into my Amazon account on this, this computer here, but I'll put a link into the, and I'll do, if you go, hang on a second. If you go to the link in the video description, which will take you to this stream on Amazon, what I would love for you to do is follow me there, and I'm going to add the book right now, Riding Rockets. I'm going to add it to the carousel. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. Yep. I just added it. And this is actually one of the most fun astronaut biographies I've read, Mike Mullane. And I'll put it right at the top of the carousel here so you can check out his book. It's called Riding Rockets. So you'll see that in there. Just added it. So check it out. It's really, really fun. All right. Well, I'm going to go chill out for a little bit. The family is gone for at least another 90 minutes or so, so I might catch a nap or something. But let me put this up. Yeah, so I think we'll know the space thing outcome by the middle of next week. And we'll see what happens. I'm guessing they would probably reach, if you're a finalist, they probably would want to interview you. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm getting like nervous about it in a good way, just because there's so few people actually applying for it. So like that surprised me. I thought there'd be much more interest in it. The biggest YouTuber I see that's in there at the moment is, she runs that robot channel. What's her name? Simone, is it Simone? Yeah, Simone Gertz, who's got that really fun channel. The one that she's the one that turned the Model 3 into a pickup truck. So she's in the running for it too. So we'll see what they're looking. I don't know what they're looking for. So it'll be fun. All right, everybody. So yeah, just hit that, go to that link and retweet me, and yeah, we'll see what happens. It'd be really interesting if it happens. If it doesn't, no big deal. So good stuff. All right, everybody. I will see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.